I'm Caroline Searcy. Welcome to another week of Bred to Win. Coming up, we head across to New Zealand and profile Sword of State, a Group 1 winning 2-year-old bringing the great Schnitzel blood to the famous Cambridge stud. An update on one of the rare Group 1 winning 2 and 3-year-olds, Castelvecchio, as his first crop turn 1 and begin the build-up to the 2023 yearling sales. And Silverdale Farm's Steve Grant in Arrowfield Studs, the horse who made you love racing. All that and more, but first we catch up on the latest from the bloodstock world in our Oz Horse News. The Hunter Valley is gearing up once more for the second annual Stud Cutting Challenge, with thoroughbreds used as turnback horses and some well-known individuals from the breeding world competing on the cutting horses, raising money for thoroughbred industry careers. Returning from last year are riders such as Coolmore's Tom Magnier and Widden Stud's Anthony Thompson, and last year's winner, Godolphin's Taylor Gilmore. It all kicks off with a Calcutta from 6 p.m. this Friday at White Park in Scone.
Hard Empire moved up to Gem Song.
Saturday's racing saw a number of Group 1 winners resume in the Group 2 Missile Stakes at Randwick, and as often happens in this late winter feature, the fit horses overshadowed the stars. Queenslander Hard Empire, a 9-year-old by Hard Spun, trained by Toby and Trent Edmonds, was an $11,000 Magic Millions Adelaide buy from Maluka Thoroughbreds to Charles White. He's a former winner of the Irwin Stakes in Adelaide and the George Moore Stakes over Jonker in Brisbane. Runner-up Wandabar and fourth place getter Enchanted Heart put up a great showing before the mares are sold through a special Inglis online sale on the 16th and 17th of August.
Serious Suspect still in front of Shooting for Gold and King of Sparta.
At Flemington, the traditional spring launch pad, the Ori Star Handicap, went to the 8-year-old son of Wanted, Serious Suspect. A homebred for Darren Dance, an Australian thoroughbred bloodstock. He's one of 4 winners from 5 to race for his Dam by Galileo, Serious Miss.
Little Big Bear still shading it and now quickens away.
The Aidan O'Brien Coolmore 2-year-old Little Big Bear won the Group 1 Phoenix Stakes in Ireland, with the colt a son of sprint star No Nay Never, whose father Johannesburg won the race back in 2001. Little Big Bear's Dam Adventure Seeker is a granddaughter of Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe winner, the Great Mare All Along.
Inside the 150, Yukon 2 lengths clear.
The Inglis graduate of the week is the son of Golden Slipper winner Vancouver, Yukon, who showed the promise of more to come when he won over 1,300 metres in the Rupert Lee colours for Team Hawks. A $360,000 Inglis Easter graduate, Yukon was sold by Widden Stud to Hawks Racing in 2019, bred by Julia Ritchie's Bangalow Syndicate. He's from the charge forward mare Phantom Queen, a half-sister to Sweet Idea and granddaughter of influential Metropolitan Handicap winner Electronic. Vancouver this season moves to Woodside Park Stud in Victoria, where he'll stand for a fee of $15,400, having been bought outright by Woodside's owner Eddie Hirsch. The early August Inglis online sale offers 50% of top-class race mare Nudge, as Inglis also launched the Inglis Digital Horse of the Year award. Nudge was runner-up to Tofane in last year's Tats Tiara after winning the Pam O'Neill Stakes, and is by Fastnet Rock from Stravinsky mare Jelinski Princess, who's also produced dual Group 1 winner Jelinski Prince. And a rare opportunity to own a breeding right in Australia's new champion sire I Am Invincible is also on offer, with final bidding kicking off on Wednesday, August 10. Cambridge studs Brendan and Joe Lindsay have derived enormous satisfaction from the deeds of their star racetrack performers in the gold and black check colours, amongst them Probabeel, who's retired to the farm this season. But the son of Schnitzel's Sword of State is their first colt to have won at the highest level in New Zealand and retired to Cambridge, and his retirement has caused a wave of excitement across the Tasman.
Sword of State and the Cambridge Stud colours wins the Cambridge Stud El Mansour Trophy. Too good, number 1, Sword of State.
Scott, it's a wonderful time of year, isn't it, leading into a new breeding season, and so exciting to have a young stallion such as Sword of State, a Group 1 winning 2-year-old by a 4-time champion Australian sire in Schnitzel.
Yeah, funnily enough, I always get a bit antsy this time of year. You're getting closer to the season and you just want to get on and see some of the first foals and get Sword of State out showcased to breeders, but thankfully he's been here for a little while now. He's settled in, he's parading really well, and we're looking forward to parading him for more and more breeders as we get closer to the season. Well,
it is an elite Australian sire line, isn't it? I mean, you look through Danehill, Redout's Choice, who's just a wonderful sire of champion sires, and Schnitzel himself, to get a Group 1 winning 2-year-old by, you know, this 4-time champion Australian sire, as I said, that's a real coup for New Zealand.
Well, as you know, those sons of Schnitzel are just so hard to get hold of, and the market clamours for them really. So we're very fortunate that David Ellis purchased him as a yearling at the Gold Coast for $600,000, and we got into that stallion syndicate. So it gave us a foot in the door, and to have him go and perform like he did, to have a champion 2-year-old, a Group 1 winning son of Schnitzel, as you say, that sire line, it's just so important throughout Australasia, you know. And then on top of that, he's out of a Group performed 2-year-old by Costa del Lago, another Australian champion sire. So it's as good as it gets really, and we're very fortunate that we've been able to secure a horse with that kind of profile.
He put 4, 5, 6 lengths on them at the 100 metres, shut the gate. Sword of State is going to bolt in.
It's a bit of a buzzword, the pre-Christmas 2-year-old, but he debuted in December. Was always a very natural horse. He trialled early, he won his trials, and went to Te Rapa with a fair bit of expectation. But as we kind of came to expect as time went on, he just showed that ability to jump, put himself in a good position, and then just quicken away from the opposition.
But whoa, what a win, what a statement, Sword of State.
New Zealand 2-year-old racing is so much stronger now, isn't it? There's a lot more Australian speed in a lot of the 2-year-old sire lines these days. So to win races in a row at 2 is a huge achievement.
Yeah, that was when he really showed that he was the dominant 2-year-old in New Zealand. The Waikato Slippers are pretty established 2-year-old race in its own right and a stepping stone to the Sistema. And in that race he lined up against On the Bubbles, who was the Cracker Million winner, who had a huge profile, but I mean that day he was just blistering. He was an excitement machine, and to go and do it back to back just showed his temperament, and as we went on, his constitution came through as well.
Sword of State has shaken off On the Bubbles.
And then, of course, in the Group 1 Sistema Stakes, he won that, a Group 1 winning 2-year-old, and that's what everyone's seeking, not just in Australia, but in New Zealand as well, to get those Group 1s at 2. I mean, there is a bit of a shift in the way 2-year-old racing is seen now in New Zealand, with such an emphasis on the Cracker Million.
Yeah, the Cracker Million's a big part of the landscape in the New Zealand racing calendar now, and Sword of State wasn't eligible for that race, being a Magic Millions graduate, but he went toe-to-toe with On the Bubbles, who he'd beaten in the previous start and was the Cracker Million winner before that, and was able to put himself in the race. And when they went for home, he just had that turn of foot, and halfway down the straight it was a procession from there. And at that stage there was no question that he was the dominant 2-year-old in New Zealand. On the Bubbles certainly went on to frank that form. He won the Manawatu Size Produce, the second Group 1 we have for 2-year-olds, and I guess the shame of it was at that point we started looking towards Australia. It was that Sydney wet weather that put paid to those plans, and at the time he was second favourite, I think, behind Animo for the sires. So everyone that we spoke to, form-wise, rating-wise, said the times he'd ran, the sectionals in particular that he was able to reel off, that he was going to go to Australia with a really good chance to measure up over there. And it's just, I suppose, one of those little things that you look back and it's a shame he never really got that opportunity. He was still rated highly by Timeform. In fact, the only horses rated above him were the Golden Slipper winner, the Blue Diamond winner, and the Sires winner. A high-class 2-year-old, not just in a New Zealand sense, but he was right up there with the best that Australia had to offer. And certainly, with his pedigree again, being a son of Schnitzel, he's the kind of horse that wouldn't look out of place standing in the Hunter Valley.
And of course he came back. It was a wonderful win in the Al Mansour Trophy in the Cambridge stud colours.
Well, Dynastic won the Cracker Million that night from Al Mansour's first crop, but having the Cambridge stud race that we sponsor named after Al Mansour in Brendan and Joe's colours, and to put in a display like he did, beat Imperatrice, who again, if you go through all the form for Sort of State, the horses he beat, you know, she's another one that came back and won multiple Group 1s later in the season. So it just, everything stacks up, and that was probably the sign to us that he's back. He'd come on as a 3-year-old.
And then his win in the King's Plate, a really important race for him as a stallion.
Yeah, I think personally it's maybe a race that gets overlooked a little bit because it was a Group 3. But I think that was his best performance ever. And to go up against Babylon Berlin, who has, you know, established Group 1 form, she's an older mare, you know, running against the best sprinters in the country. He conceded 1.5 kgs to her and got into a real dogfight and showed that determination. But the biggest thing there is, you know, he ran a tick over 1:08, ran one of the fastest times ever at Ellerslie.
When he came back in the Gold Coast Guineas this year, he showed he could have been anything in Australia just in the winter just gone.
It was frustrating because we'd gone over there hoping to get better tracks in Queensland. Initially we said we wouldn't run him on a rain-affected going, and despite not liking the surface, he ran, you know, a really great race, was a whisker from adding a Group 3 in Australia to the record. Gave us that enthusiasm heading into the Kingsford Smith. Again, just, you know, the virus popped up I think on the Thursday the week before, and the timing was all out, and that was the last that we saw of him. As much as we felt like there was more left in the tank in terms of his performances in Australia, there's no doubt he's got the credentials to be a really exciting and particularly commercial stallion prospect for us here.
He's a good-looking horse, isn't he? I mean, we know that David bought him for $600,000, as you said, at Magic Millions, so he's an outstanding type.
I always like it when, you know, a stallion's been through that yearling sale process and sold well. Yeah, it's an indicator that, A, it was Magic Millions, so he was a forward, you know, mature type of yearling, correct, stacked up to all the you know, the hoops they have to jump through to make that kind of money at a sale, and I think that's always a good indicator if you're looking to breed commercially and the stock they're going to throw. But in time, you know, he's matured and come here to stud. On top of that, I think if you talk to Jamie Richards, Mark Walker, Opie Bosson, the first thing they'll always say to you is he just had an amazing temperament. And that's something already, you know, he's been bomb-proof. You could, you know, have a day, someone on their first day on the job here could lead him around. He's been fantastic, really settled, and I think he offers something quite unique, a bit of injection and speed, which, you know, sometimes we need in our families here. And again, if you're looking to, you know, target a horse that could be a crack a million type yearling, as a son of Schnitzel out of an Costa del Lago mare, we're kind of probably playing more to the Australian flavour there, which is hard to do because those horses are generally hard to attain for New Zealand. But I think he's going to offer a really precocious, mature type of horse to sharpen up the mares in New Zealand. We're very fortunate here with the investment that Brendan and Joe have made in so many respects, but one of the major things they've done is they've added, you know, 50 to 60 broodmares to the broodmare band at a very high level since we started. They're active at the yearling sales, predominantly buying fillies. So I think every year we go along, the broodmare band gets stronger, and that's something that's really going to benefit Sort of State this year. So we've got 4 stallions here this year on the roster. They're all by really good stallions in their own right. You've got, you know, Wootton Bassett, who's a worldwide phenomenon, a son of Zavabeel, who's our, you know, perennial leading sire, Kodiak again, who's a champion, and now to have a son of Schnitzel coming to the roster. They're all Group 1 winners by champion stallions. So that's, for a stud like Cambridge Stud to be at the level we want to be at, those are the kind of horses we want to be standing, and we're very proud to have a roster of those 4 horses this year. They're all young, and I think for breeders there's, you know, a huge amount to be excited about, and regardless of what you're looking to do or your mare suits, I think we've got something here that will really work. And again, with Sort of State, the standout first-year horse in New Zealand, he's got a great commercial profile for those people looking to use a first-year sire and be thinking about the sales. I think he's just, you know, the right kind of horse to be doing that with.
A G1 Goldmine analysis of the best nicks for your mare and Sort of State sire Schnitzel show elusive quality, and General Nadeem work the best, especially the latter, with a 4.4% Group 1 winners to runners ratio. Street Cry, Last Tycoon and Red Ransom also cross well. Sort of State's dam sire in Costa del Lago throws up a remarkable 100% record for Octagonal's brother by Zabeel Columbia through New Zealand Stakes winners Amy's Jewel and Vitesse Bow. With a wider spread of runners, Zedative at 15% fares best when Costa has been in the sire's female line, followed by Red Ransom, Royal Academy and Nureyev. What a stunning stallion he is, and I'd almost guarantee his offspring will come to Australia and capture that elusive Group 1. Time for a break on Bred to Win. Coming up, it's always great to revisit stallions several years into their career. We go back and check out Castelvecchio and his yearlings growing out in the lush paddocks of Arrowfield Stud. A number of New Zealand's big guns resumed in the same race at Ruakaka on Saturday, including Entrevier, Dragon Leap, On the Bubbles and more. It was Tiakau's dual Group 1 winner Imperatriz for Cambridge Stud's good friends David and Karen Ellis, who was successful and on track for a big spring campaign. The daughter of reigning champion Australian sire I Am Invincible, Imperatriz was bred by Dato Yap's Raffles Dancers and sold by Beamer Thoroughbreds to David Ellis for $360,000 at the 2020 Magic Millions yearling sale.
Great to see her back in action. Imperatriz, the I Am Invincible mare, she'll get the job done here.
A few years into a stallion stud career can be a tenuous time as people forget what a good racehorse they were and the shiny new boys are promoted off the map. Here at Bred to Win, we love revisiting those stallions and showing you their enormous physical development, and I'm sure you'll agree Group 1 winning 2 and 3-year-old Castelvecchio is worth another visit. Wonderful to be here at Arrowfield Stud and looking at Castelvecchio. It's his 3rd season, of course, now as a stallion. How do you see him? He's let down into a lovely horse, hasn't he, with the cresty sort of neck and powerful behind. What's he look like to your eyes?
Firstly, Caroline, welcome back to Arrowfield. When I heard you were coming, it could only mean one time of year. The season was approaching. It comes around so quickly. But Castelvecchio, yes, he's let down really nicely. We're very happy the way he looks. Obviously, his 3rd season now. Stallions, as those stallion masters out there watching know that these horses generally do thicken up and let down, and in the 3rd season you really know what sort of a horse you've got in appearance. There's a lot of similarities can be drawn. I always look at horses and their pedigrees and try and figure out who they look like and where their appearances and looks come from, and for me a lot of it's coming through on the dam line, the De Heer, particularly Deputy Minister. I just reminded myself before I spoke to you this morning and looked a little bit at his history, and I was just struck. I hadn't realised the similarities between the two horses. You know, he was a very precocious, fabulous 2-year-old champion sire in America, but a lot of substance. You can still see the done deal in him, but he's really let down and, you know, short coupled, real sharp looking horse.
No surprise, of course, as a Group 1 winner as a 2-year-old. And of course, you know, again, exciting looking towards the yearlings that will be coming through in the yearling sale season. But the first weanlings sold so well through the sales ring.
You're very happy with them. I'm really looking forward to seeing these weanlings grow out. We've got 45 of them on the farm, and the similarities are striking. They're very much a type. Very much looking forward to seeing them being presented at the sales ring next year. I think the buying bench are going to receive them very well. I particularly look forward to showing them to Octavio and Wendy Gilletta. You know, they've been part of this whole story all the way along, and I'm sure that they're going to see a lot of what they saw in Castelvecchio when he was at that age.
And Castelvecchio charges away now the Champagne.
Doesn't seem that long ago since Castelvecchio was, you know, providing some huge thrills on the track for Octavio and Wendy and the Arrowfield team. And I guess, you know, it's really important to keep these racetrack performances of the young stallions front of mind.
Absolutely. I mean, he was an amazing 2-year-old, and, you know, he won the coveted Champagne Stakes, but let's not forget the Millennium. You know, he looped the field that day and won with a leg in the air very easily. Showed great maturity mentally is what he showed that day. And throughout his 2-year-old year, if you remind yourselves and look at his races, you can see that there was no greenness in the way he ran. You know, mentally, he was very mature as a 2-year-old. He won his debut in January, so he was early. So that was fantastic. And then, of course, he proved that he trained on at 3. He went up against the best of his generation in the Cox plate and older. You know, he was beaten, of course, by Miss Grecieux, who was one of the highest rated horses in the world at that time, as she was. And of course, Mystic Journey and the Great Very Elegant, who's still now flying the flag for Australia overseas. And so, you know, and after that, he went on and in the autumn and won the Guineas, you know, so a very tough, consistent horse. We've spoken before about, you know, the wonderful thing that horses do is they can take you on this adventure and this journey, and sometimes internationally. As we've seen Ascot just recently, some of the Australian horses over there. And, you know, Castelvecchio is a great example of that. Octavia and Wendy and, of course, Richard Litt, you know, they're now part of the extended Arrowfield family, you know, and that's the great thing when you're buying horses from Arrowfield. We love to, you know, follow the successes. Obviously, you know, people who purchase from us and breed with us, their success is our success. So we like to, you know, embrace them into the family, and, you know, they've been very interested in Castelvecchio all throughout his time standing at stud with us. So, you know, it's been fantastic.
And the High Chaparral sire line, it's becoming one of the most dominant in Australia. We're seeing So You Think, your Toronados and so many others. You know, it's dominant, you know, outside the Danehill line. And it's no surprise, of course, the way Sadler's Wells and Danehill have nicked over generations now. Sadler's
Wells is, you know, I know Galileo is unfortunately no longer with us, but is an unbelievable race stallion. But his father before him, Sadler's Wells, you know, in my mind, I'm 35 years old now, so, you know, losing hair and teeth and all that sort of, but, you know, I'm very much Sadler's Wells at the front of my mind when I was coming up. He was an amazing stallion, and the High Chaparral now, it's a dynasty. And Dundeel, I think, is going to establish his own dynasty. You know, he's got Castelvecchio and Super Seth, who I hear is doing very well in Waikato stud, and they're doing a great job with him. But it's a dynasty. And with a horse like Castelvecchio, he's a complete outcross. He's so easy to breed to. And what I've seen, the consistency of his foals as types, is that I know the mares that have gone to him. And when you first breed to a stallion, there's always that thought and consideration goes into too big a mare, too small a mare, and rightly so. But what I've seen with the Castelvecchios is similar to what I've seen with the Dundeels, is it doesn't really seem to matter too much. He's very consistent in what he's leaving. And you know, given that, Arrowfield continues, and your clients, to support him very heavily with some fabulous mares. Yes, well, he's had 248 mares, I understand, up to this point. We've got 40 mares that we have ourselves and with clients as well in partnership that are expecting foals this year. And I'd just like to say now that anyone who's got a mare in foals at Castelvecchio this year, you won't be disappointed. They're lovely, lovely types. Also this year we're going to be sending 38s. We're backing up. We're conviction breeders at Arrowfield. You know, we're well known for that. Our strength, I've always said, is yes, we've got some lovely stallions, but our strength is our broodmare band. And so we've got some lovely, lovely mares going to him this year, including Politeness, Group 1 winner, Kabedi, Group winner, the sister to Lankan Rupee, some really good mares. So we're going again. And it is a tricky year for a young stallion, isn't it? The third year. So as you say, he's covered good numbers, the 248. That was at $33,000. So he's having a slight drop this year. So it's a great opportunity for mare owners. Third year is the year where you can really get in front of the curve if you get onto the right foot. And with a horse like Castelvecchio, what we've seen, how already the foals have been received, so that gives you confidence. Having seen, you know, 30 plus years of growing out foals, I know that they're going to grow into nice yearlings, commercial yearlings. He's a complete outcross. He has the 2-year-old credentials and also training until 3. Like his sire Dundeel, he has that versatility of 1,200 out to 2,000 metres. He's a very good bet for his third year. So I think that, you know, a lot of the viewers are very discerning. They do their homework. There's a plethora of information at their fingertips. And, you know, one only has to refresh your memory on his race performance and look at the foals. And, you know, at that price, he makes a lot of sense.
Sounds like a real favourite too, and I'm sure you're going to have Wendy and Atavia and you know, Richard Litt and everyone out here, so I'm sure they're going to be looking forward to you know, some of the babies that will be coming through that they're involved with.
Of course, and the other thing, of course, post-pandemic is we're opening our gates again for the Stallion Parade, which, you know, we've got a little bit, we're now back in the service industry, we were never out of it, but it's lovely to welcome prospective clients through the gates and to show them the horses. And I know you've looked at Castel Vecchio this morning, and we can't wait to show him and just refresh people's memories what a lovely horse he is.
He's a magnificent stallion, and so many people are looking forward to the yearling sales in 2023. Coming up on Bred to Win, Silverdale Farm's Steve Grant with a flying filly of the 1980s in Arrowfield Studs, the horse who made you love racing.
In the early 80s, we were pretty interested, and I used to work at my brother's place. He had a small spelling place there, and I got interested in the horses and was chasing them backwards and forwards. And whilst there was a few horses that we followed, I suppose the one that really got me over the line was Vaindara. We weren't that well off in those days, and I saved up quite a bit of money, and we caught the train to Rose Hill to watch her in the Silver Slipper. And I was pretty sure she'd win, so I'd put a heap on her for me, which might have been a couple of $100 or so at that time. And I had my train ticket in my pocket, so I went and put the bet on. And as I was walking back to my mates, I found $1 in my pocket. So I went back and had a trifecta for $1. And I think I ended up winning about about 600 on the punt, but then I checked the ticket and I'd won almost $1,000 on the trifecta. So that, if I was hooked before, this got me really hooked.
She was runner-up to Masqué, of course, the stablemate in the Golden Slipper, and a wonderful filly. But do your eyes sort of light up and you remember her when you see through Fickle Hostess and through all the way through? She appears on so many pedigree pages in elite catalogues.
Yeah, she does, and you know, that sort of thing does get you fired up, and people sort of wonder why. But like when we bought a filly off John Muir, in the mid-90s, for instance, I was trying to decide between two, and this filly went through first and we got her, and the other one was Dan Glisser. And I always look at those catalogue pages as they go through with her on the page, and that, yeah, it does fire you up and keeps you looking.
That is Bred to Win for this week. Join me again next week as we feature Thoroughbred Breeders New South Wales with a great leadership course aimed at retaining staff in the breeding game. That and much more next week. I'm Caroline Searcy. I'll see you then.